everyone. I'm joined by Sherry Ott, and Sherry is the brains behind ottsworld, one of the most popular blogging sites, I'd say, in Vietnam, and she's picked up quite a lot of coverage along the way. Sherry, thanks for talking to me.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks for that nice introduction. I actually started the blog because I was quitting my career in America, in New York City, that I had been working at for 14 years, and I decided I was going to travel around the world. And so the blogging idea came to me because I wanted a way to be able to share photos, and I wanted a way to be able to let my family kind of know where I was and that I was okay, because I was going to be in Africa and all these different places. So, plus, honestly, I actually used to journal all the time at home, and so this was kind of my way to be able to continue journaling, but
share it
electronically. Yeah. I honestly didn't know a thing about blogs before I started, and so it just really started out to be a personal thing. And then as I traveled, I actually traveled for 1.5 years around the world. And as I traveled, it became a complete, interest of mine, because I found that strangers were reading it, and I loved it because I could share all this information about countries I had been to that people didn't know about. It's really kind of my travel memoirs more than anything, because that's how it started out, like my own journal. So, countries I've been to, I normally try to focus on things like the foods I ate, the people I met, really more culturally. Like, what I don't cover is I stayed at this hotel and I went on this tour, and I don't tell you where to stay. I just kind of tell you the people I met and my experiences. But it has probably over 26 countries on it now, so there's a lot of coverage on it. So it's just my own little personal journal telling people about the countries. I chose Vietnam. I traveled through here when I was traveling around the world I think I traveled through here for about 5 weeks, so I did the whole country, and I really liked it. Out of Southeast Asia, it was my favorite country, because it had the most its culture was still really intact.
Sure.
And I found it to be the most different, or as far as all the other countries in Southeast Asia, or the most different than America, than my own culture.
Yeah.
So, which is what I normally like.
Yeah.
So motorbikes, the fact that everyone still wears the pointed hats and carries around fruit on a basket, it's just...
Yeah, it still happens, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realise this about Vietnam, is that you do still see people in conical hats and carrying around pretty much like a whole house on a motorbike.
Yeah, and it's not just for tourists, that's just how they live.
Yeah.
And I find that to be different than, say, Thailand, which is also a very popular tourist destination, but Thailand is much more westernized. Yeah, it's really grown. After I traveled for 1.5 years, I kind of went back home and decided that I really wanted to work on the blog and try to make it something that I could potentially travel off of and continue traveling and make some money and monetize the blog. But and I have been doing that. That's one of the things. It's easy to do in Vietnam because it's cheap to live here, so you can spend time on stuff like that. Yeah. Now I've kind of redesigned the blog to be, there's still all of the travel stories from my past travels, but there's also stories about expat living, what it's like to, I have a whole series actually that's quite popular in Vietnam about how to learn how to drive a motorbike here, because I chronicled my whole story of how I took it from my living room out onto the streets the first time and was scared to death. So it talks about the culture and where I'm at, so the expat stuff. It also shares a whole bunch of photography now. As far as the success of it, I have readers, I don't know how many people, quite a few unique visitors every month. It keeps on going up and up. I've actually just started, I'm approached quite often now by advertisers, advertisers, to sponsor the site. So that's fun, because I'm actually starting to make money off of it, which is wonderful. My favorite thing about it is people contact me, and people who follow the story, and they say, I know you're going to be in wherever, Cambodia this month, and I'm in Cambodia, and can you meet for a drink? And so I've met so many complete strangers that just happen to read my blog for drinks, for dinner, whatever, and it's fun. I mean, that part I love. I've made a lot of friendships through the blog. It's kind of the same answer for both. The traffic. Honestly, my favorite thing about Vietnam is the motorbike culture. I'm absolutely fascinated with it. I've never seen it in any other place that I've traveled in the world. I've never seen a motorbike culture quite like this. And the stuff that they carry on it. I've lived here a year and I'm still entertained every time I drive, and I see something new every day that just either makes me laugh or be very scared, or So that's probably my favorite thing about Vietnam. It's a really laid back country, easy to travel through. Yeah, friendly people, exactly. It's beautiful. I went to Borneo, great trekking in Borneo, which I really enjoyed. An unusual country, or island, I should say. It's really, and I'm trying to think, and just recently, and it's not really Southeast Asia, but I went to Mongolia, which is a very unusual place to go, or not many people go there, and it was absolutely stunning. I would recommend anyone to go there. To me, it was the New Zealand of Asia. That actually came out of the fact that when I was planning for my escape from my corporate life, I went out to the internet and tried to find resources, and there are really very few at the time, 3 years ago, resources for Americans that want to take a gap year or a career break, whatever you want to call it. Americans just don't do it. We're too intense in our jobs. We have too much stuff that we don't want to give up, and we think that it's going to hurt our career. So it came out of the fact that I couldn't find the information, and as I traveled, I started thinking that there's an opportunity there that I can help other people, do the same thing, because it can be really fun. It doesn't hurt your career. In fact, it can broaden it if you do it the right way. So, me and another friend who had the same feelings started another website called Briefcase to Backpack. And it's all about traveling and it's all about Americans taking career breaks and inspiring Americans to take career breaks and kind of showing them how, and how they can also re-enter the workforce in 6 months or a year or 3 months, whatever people decide to do. America in Vietnam is really interesting, and that's honestly why one of the things that I also love about Vietnam is it has a lot of American history tied up in it, and so that draws me here. It's one of the few countries that I've been in that has a whole bunch of American history tied up in it, so I find that really interesting. There's absolutely no, as you probably know, there's no backlash or anything towards Americans here at all. In fact, they love us, which is actually quite surprising. But as an American traveling here, it's really easy. They love you. I would like to say, try to think about, if you want to blog, try to think ahead about what is your goal with blogging, what do you want it to look like. But I also think that's really hard to do. I had no plan when I started mine, none. And so I had to backtrack quite a bit and try to figure out what I wanted to be, and then more importantly, how to organize it. If you have a vision already how to organize it, it makes it much easier, I would say. Like, are you going to write hotel reviews, or are you going to write memoirs, or are you going to focus on photography or whatever? The other thing is, I would say, is try your best to find a niche. There are a ton of travel blogs and bloggers out there, and it gets really easy to get frustrated with that because you feel like everything's been done before. So if you can kind of find a niche, whether that's an age group, whether it's technology like video or whatever, it'll help immensely.
Sherry, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah, thank you.